Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have 7 spring DIYs for you, all using supplies from the Dollar Tree. So think like garden, flowers, things like that, things that are really beautiful for spring. For the first DIY, I wanted to do a little garden fence scene to welcome spring, so I'm going to use 2 of these little fence signs from the Dollar Tree. They are hanging signs. I just removed the hangers from the back because I want to make a standalone sign and I want it to be a little bit of a wider fence. So I'm going to use 2 of them together. I liked these because they had the little points at the top, like a little picket fence. And I do want to kind of maintain that spacing between them. And so how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to use a popsicle stick. It's about the same width as that beam there in the back. And I'm going to cut down 2 little braces that I can connect here to the back. I do need to kind of get the staples out of the way. The Cricut weeder from the Dollar Tree is great for getting those little tiny staples out like that. And maintaining the distance between them, like a normal distance between the different fencing, I'm going to go ahead and glue both of those in place with a little bit of hot glue. That way I have a longer fence panel like this that I can decorate. Now it's time to paint it. A lot of DIYs I do for spring, I do like a white fence. I love like a white picket fence look, but I decided to add a little bit of color to this one. And I wanted it to be really pretty. So I mixed some turquoise together with some white and got this really beautiful light turquoise, almost an aqua color. And I'm going to paint the entire fence. Now I am painting the back as well because this is going to be a standalone piece. So I want it to look finished from any direction that you might see it. I'm going to use some of that Dollar Tree craft wood for a base for this one, so it will be standing a standalone sign. So I just did the back first and then I'm painting the front. I made sure to use a brush just to get in between all the different fence panels, and I'm really kind of glad I chose this color. I think it's really whimsical and fun. And I like to use this color a lot, no matter what the season, but I think it's really pretty with spring. I think it looks great with the flowers. Now, I do like that color. I do want to give it a light distress, though. So I go back in with a little bit of ivory and a chunky brush from the Dollar Tree, slightly distressing it, wiping off any excess with a baby wipe until I just have a very soft distress on there. And I think that looks pretty good. Now, I want to do a little sign to hang on the fence, and I needed something kind of small. I'm going to use a Dollar Tree wood ruler. I love these things for crafting with. I'm just going to remove the sticker and cut it down to size. Now, paint stir sticks would probably be a little bit cheaper than the Dollar Tree rulers, but I do try to like to keep supplies from the Dollar Tree. It's just accessible to many people, including myself, so I am going to use the rulers today. Now, I painted it white, like an ivory color, but not very thick. I just kind of want it to be like a little bit of a whitewash on the sign. And I'm just going to do a little handwritten sign. I'm going to say welcome spring, but you could also say like welcome to my garden, something like that. Just with some handwriting, I'm going to capitalize spring. And I just kind of sketch it out with a fine detailed Sharpie first to kind of get my spacing and everything right. And then I went back over it with a regular black Sharpie. When I'm doing real fine things like this, I kind of like the Sharpies better than the paint pens because you don't have to worry about smearing and stuff like that. And then I whitewash over it to give it an aged look, just using a little makeup sponge and some ivory paint, and then a slight distress with some antique wax by Waverly. I just kind of work in one direction, wiping off the excess, just kind of aging it and giving it a little bit of a rustic look, which I'm going to do with most of the things on this project. If you have too much, you can always add a little bit more of your original color. And then I'm going to do a little flower since it's welcome spring. I used a Sharpie again, and I just did a very simple little flower, and I'm going to outline it with like the fine tipped Sharpie and whitewash that as well to kind of make that go with the rest of it. For the hanger, I'm just going to do a piece of twine, something really simple. And I'm just going to glue that onto the back of our little ruler sign with a little dot of hot glue. And we can actually just hang this on the fence like this. I want it to hang a little bit crooked, but be over on the right side of the fence. For this side of the fence, I'm going to hang a little galvanized metal watering can. I think this is so cute. I got this at Target Dollar Spot, but you could also use the one that is a yard stake from the Dollar Tree. It's not much bigger. I've used that for crafting before. And I would really like to use a cup hook for this, but I couldn't find any in my stash. So I just used a little Dollar Tree nail into the fence to hang it up. I also wanted to hang at an angle like this, so I just use a little dot of hot glue just to keep that in place. And I'm going to do the same thing with the welcome spring sign so it stays kind of crooked on there like that. Now let's start on the base. I'm just going to use a piece of Dollar Tree craft wood. And I'm going to cover most of this with moss to make it look grassy. But I do want to stain it first just for any areas that might show through the moss. So I'm just going to use some antique wax by Waverly and go over the top, front, and back, and even like the ends of these, just to give that a pretty finish. And that actually stains really beautiful. I want to attach it like this where it's almost to the back of the wood, and I use some hot glue to attach it. I'm going to use quite a bit of hot glue to set this up to make sure it stays in place. You kind of have to give it time to set up as well. Once I get it partially set up, I'm going to run another bead of hot glue here in the front just to help stabilize this because it has the different things hanging from it, and so that makes it a little bit heavier and not wanting to stand up. And then I flip it around and I also do a bead of hot glue here on the back. And then just hold it until the hot glue has a chance to set up, and I think that looks pretty good. Now it's time to decorate it even more. I found some little mini flower pots that are wooden from the Dollar Tree, some of their little wooden ladybugs, and I also found tiny butterflies in the crafter square section. So I thought those would all be perfect to decorate this little fence for spring. These come in 2 different sizes. There's like a larger one and smaller one. I want to do like maybe 3 of them up there, just trying to figure out what I like where. They all kind of fit, so I think I'll do it like that, with 1 large one and 2 of the smaller ones. I'm going to paint them to make them look like terracotta pots, and I actually have the perfect color. It's called terracotta. This is a paint that I got at Target. I think it was like in a 4-pack of different colors of paint, but it's pretty close to the terracotta color of a pot, so I think that will work pretty well. And I just go over the outside and the top rim of all of them, anywhere you're going to be able to see them. And I'm going to fill them up with some tiny flowers from Dollar Tree to look like little planters with flowers inside. So once I get those painted, I also want to go ahead and paint the butterfly because these are unfinished. I'm going to do an orange color with this one, just painting it with a makeup sponge works well. The ladybug is already perfectly painted, so I think that will work well. I want to go ahead and attach the pots now before I add the moss and stuff like that because that would kind of get in the way. So I just use a dot of hot glue everywhere I want one of my little planters to be, and I put the pots right there. Now up next is the ladybug. It had a sticker on the back, but I would rather it be hot glued flat to it. So I just peeled the double-sided tape off the back of that. And then I'm also going to add a few more details to the butterfly. It seemed a little bit plain. So it's orange, so I thought black would logically make sense for a pattern on here. So I just go around the different sections and the outer rim with one of the fine tip black Sharpies. I used like kind of the bigger one there for the body. And I don't want to add too much detail, but I think that'll be good because it has little cutouts in there. So you'll kind of see a pattern in there anyway. And a dot of hot glue right over here. We can have a little butterfly flying in front of our little spring fence. I did distress the ladybug just because everything else was kind of distressed, and the butterfly with a tiny bit of ivory paint just to make it match the vibe of this display. For the grass, I'm going to use some of the Dollar Tree reindeer moss. And what I want to do is just attach it all over the wood that is visible there to give it that spring garden feel. It makes it great like faux grass or foliage. So I put some hot glue there on that ledge and just kind of do it bunch by bunch. I don't want my bunches to be too thick. just enough to provide pretty good coverage. So I did the front first. There is a little bit of room on each side that I can glue some to, and then I also want to do the front here where you can see it. So I just hot glue that on, and I'm also going to kind of wrap that around the edges, basically anywhere you can see it. I had so much fun putting this spring DIY together. I love spring DIYs. They're so fun and bright. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are still in the depths of winter and you can enjoy thinking about spring. For the little flower pots, I put a dot of hot glue in the bottom of each. And instead of using soil or anything like that, I'm just going to use some of the brown floral moss from Dollar Tree to fill it in there. It's a little bit different color than the reindeer moss you can see, but I thought that would be a good filler, and then we can fill that up with flowers. A lot of times when I go to the Dollar Tree, especially in spring, I'm looking for some of the smallest flowers that I can find. And there's a couple different shades of the pink ones that are real tiny like this. So I'm just going to do 3 of them in this pot. That's the larger pot to fill that up. I'm also going to do like one of these. The whole thing won't fit. So I'm just going to cut off the tip of it where you have a little purple plant like growing up. I thought that would be cute and a nice variety as opposed to the flowers. And then this is the other color of pink, the very tiny flowers like this. I do have quite a stash of like little tiny flowers like this because I find I use them more for crafting than I actually do the larger flowers. So some soft pink ones in that pot. And there it is, our little welcome spring fence. I think it's so colorful and cheerful being the blue fence. So don't be afraid to paint your fence a color like that. But I think this turned out so cute and it was really fun to put together. I love all the little details, the little butterflies, the ladybugs, and the flower pots. So cute. Okay, for the next DIY, we're going to use one of these little flower hooks. I think they're kind of new at my Dollar Tree. And one of these ornate frames. I think these are kind of new too. They have just like a black cardboard in them, which is kind of weird. But it's a really cool frame. It is made out of plastic. I wanted to paint it ivory. I think that's going to look really pretty for spring. And I want a little bit of a farmhouse vibe, so we're going to be distressing this as well. I don't want to get perfect coverage on this because if you leave a little bit of the gold showing through, it adds another layer of distress to it. But you're definitely going to need a brush to get down in all of the detail. But I think it's a really pretty frame to craft with. When I first saw it, I was like, not my style. And then I looked at the actual frame itself and I'm like, oh, that could actually be really pretty if you painted it. And it really is. So that's what it looks like after one coat of ivory paint. I do touch it up a little bit because I had a little bit too much gold showing through. I want a little bit, but not too much. So I touch it up a little bit and then I'm going to go in and distress it even further because I really want to bring out the detail and all of that ornate texture there at the top. So I'm going to use some antique wax by Waverly and just kind of drag it over all of that texture and slightly distress the frame as well. I don't want it to be too dark though, so I'm going to follow that up with a baby wipe so you still get that ivory color showing through, but just a little bit of distressing all the way around the frame. And isn't that so pretty for something from the Dollar Tree? I love it. It looks like something that you would find in the thrift store, like an older frame. If you get it too dark in any spots, you can always go back with your original color and touch up those spots, but I think it did a good job of bringing out a lot of details on it. Now, this is the flower. I think these come in different colors. They are a hook, but it's really easy. All you got to do is use a screwdriver and you can take the hook off. One thing I did notice though is that it kind of falls apart on you, so you do have to save the screws so that you can put it back together. But I thought I would take advantage of it because it's going to make it easier to paint. I wanted to do like a salmon color flower, this really beautiful color of pink. And so I'm just going to go all over it with that. And this is actually way easier to paint in 2 pieces like this. So I'm just going to go with it. I do one coat. It paints really well. It is plastic, so you're not going to be able to wipe it with like the baby wipe or anything like that because it will take off the paint. But I'll show you how I kind of distress this to make it look really pretty. So I just make sure I get in all those areas in the front. And then to distress it, I'm just kind of working my way out like this, like a flower would be. And I'm just using that ivory paint. Go back in with your original color if you get too much anywhere. And I'm going to do that for both parts of the flower. And I really love this flower. I think it's really pretty. So if you see one of these, definitely pick it up. So pretty. I distress the edges a little bit more on this one, just so it's a little bit more uniform. And we can start putting this together. Now there is like a little dot in there that pokes out where you can kind of line it up so you know exactly where your screws need to go. So I'm going to go ahead and screw this back on. You're not really going to be able to see the back of this flower, but I didn't really like how it looked back here. So I decided to kind of use my paint that I still had on my paintbrush just to kind of paint the petals back there, just in case you can see the back of it. And I'm going to display it against some of the spring burlap fabric. This is the Dollar Tree burlap fabric with like that turquoise color polka dot. And I'm going to cover the little piece of cardboard that was in there, the black piece of cardboard. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut a piece out. Luckily, I didn't have to iron it because they do kind of fold that up. I can just cut out a little slice here from the side. Now, I didn't like the fact that it was black though, because I felt like you could really see that through the holes in the burlap. So I'm going to paint mine ivory. It's kind of a finished cardboard, so it was actually not very easy to paint. I think I had to do at least 3 coats of paint, and I don't really care if I get great coverage. I just want it to be brighter so that it will show through white instead of black through the fabric. But it really did not want to be painted, which is why it required so many coats of paint. But once I get that painted, I'm just going to go ahead and Mod Podge the burlap on there. I cut it a little bit larger than I needed, and then I can just go ahead and cut the excess material off, and I won't have to worry about any fraying because all the areas I want will be Mod Podged down. And Mod Podge is great with burlap to prevent any fraying. I'm just going to go ahead and smooth this out. It dried pretty well. I kind of wiped it with a paper towel and then flipped it over and cut off the excess material. I do want a clean cut along the edge so it will fit back into the frame. And I think this is going to be a really cute background for this flower. I love mixing the blue in with the spring. I just think it's so pretty. Now this only fits one way in. You want the little carved out pieces to be there on the bottom with the corners rounded. And then I'm going to pop the back on this and put this back together. You can hang it or it's got a stand on there. I'm going to use the stand. I think that'll look really pretty for a spring DIY. And we're going to display the flower on there just like that. So I do some hot glue here, kind of the lowest portion that's going to make some contact with the burlap and the cardboard back there. And just glue it in the middle, making sure I press it down so it gets good contact. And this is how it turned out. I think it's really pretty and whimsical for spring. I love the colors and I really love that frame. Isn't that so pretty? And I think the distressing brings a lot out of that, especially with the flower. Like with the metal flowers at Dollar Tree, I find when you distress them, just with one color like that, it just gives them so much more character. And I really love that burlap. I have so many different styles of burlap from Dollar Tree. Whenever I see them, I always grab them. For this spring DIY, I'm going to use this sign that I actually got on clearance at Target Dollar Spot. But you know what? It's the same exact size as the ones from the Dollar Tree. I just liked the lighter wood frame on this one, so I'm going to use this one instead because I've used all of those from my stash from the Dollar Tree, but they do have those in the Dollar Tree frame as well. I'm just going to start here. I tried to remove the tag from the back, and I'm going to change out where the hanger is because I'm going to make this a horizontal sign. What I want to do is do a little wall garden. I wanted this to be a hanging piece. So as you can see, the sign is 12 inches. So I'm just going to find the center so I can center this. And I find the trick of these little Dollar Tree hangers that are not sawtooth is to kind of hot glue them in place first. That way it doesn't move around when you're trying to put those little tiny screws back in there. And it just makes it a lot easier and you don't have to, use another hanger. For the fence on this one, I'm going to use 2 of these little Dollar Tree pallet boards. And for the garden gate, I found this sign from the Dollar Tree that I think is so pretty. It says, "Welcome to our garden." It's white, it's distressed, it's got flowers all over, and I thought it was the perfect shape for a garden gate. So I'm just going to remove the hanger. It was like a little hanging tag, and I'm going to use that as the gate, and then these pieces can be the fence on each side. And I want it to be like a 3D piece where it sticks out, so it's okay that the frame is a little bit smaller than what I have planned. I'm just going to use some painter's tape to kind of try to protect my frame here. What I'm going to do is paint a very abstract sky on here. So I thought like the top half could be the sky, the bottom half could be the grassy garden filled with flowers. And so I really only have to paint half of it blue. I'm just going to go ahead and drag that down. I do want pretty good coverage. I found that sometimes these paintbrushes can lose more bristles than they have in them, it seems. So I was trying to make sure I didn't get any bristles stuck on there, but this is how that part looked. The painter's tape did a pretty good job, except it kind of prevented me from getting all the way in the corners here, so I'm just going to kind of fill those in. I do want it to be a sunny day, but I want a little bit of a look of clouds in there. So I'll show you how I end up doing it. First, I kind of just sponge on a little bit more blue, and then I use one of those stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree, and I go on with some white acrylic paint to make some puffy little clouds here in the sky. I didn't want it to look too cartoonish though, so I tried to blend mine in with some of the blue that I used originally to make some little fluffy clouds there in the sky, but I don't want it to be too white. I just want it to be more subtle. So I kind of go back between the two colors. When that dried, I found that you couldn't really see the clouds much at all. So I'm going to go in here for a second coat of white. This time maybe not distressing as much of it as away, but I do want to blend it too. So just using that original blue color that I used and the makeup sponge and just blending it until I'm happy with it. Again, I want it to be very abstract. For the fence, I'm going to make this fence white because the gate is white, so I thought that would make sense for a little welcome to our garden sign. And so I'm just going to paint these white. I want them almost to look like a whitewash because that's kind of the vibe that that sign is giving. So I'm just going to do a thin coat of white acrylic all over these. And I'll also come in and distress these a little bit because as you can see, that welcome to our garden sign is slightly distressed as well. I just want a good coat of white all over these. I don't really have to worry about the back on these. You're not going to be able to see them, but I do try to do any of the edges of the palette board that you might be able to see. I paint that white as well. A very light distress. I like to come in from the ends like that. Gives it a great distressing, but also all over just slightly. And then I go back with a baby wipe to wipe off the excess. And it just kind of gave it a little bit of an aged look, which goes with that original sign a little bit. Now, to kind of tie it in together, I'm going to slightly distress this one as well. It's almost distressed more with a gray, but I thought if I added a little bit of distressing with some Antique Wax by Waverly, it would make it blend in and match a little bit better. So there it is, our little welcome to our garden fence. And now we can work on this a little bit. I still wasn't happy with those clouds, so I went over with a little bit more of that original blue, sponged that on until I just got a little less prevalent cloud. I want it to be very subtle back there. And then I'm going to have to figure out a way to attach this all together. I thought I was going to need some pieces to bump out some of the pieces. I want the gate to be level with the fence. So I'm going to try some of these little mini Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree. And I found if you put them on their side like that, it was the perfect depth. So I'm going to attach two up here for the top of the garden gate. And I'm also going to do two here at the bottom because it needs to stick out enough where it is flat level with the fence, just like that. The fence has that little thing on the bottom, the brace and the frame. So it needs to stick out a little bit too. And so I'm going to use one of the Jenga blocks, but this time laying flat. And that gave it the right little support there, and I can just connect that part to the sign. So I'm going to do the same thing here in reverse on the other side with one more of the Jenga blocks. Now that I have those attached, I can go ahead and add my grassy scene. I'm going to use Dollar Tree's reindeer moss for the grass in our garden. Since you will be able to see through the fence a little bit, I wanted it to have like a green grassy look. So I'm just going to cover this little quarter and this little quarter over here with some reindeer moss. So half of it sky, half of it moss, and we'll also add flowers. I want flowers just coming out of the fence, flowers above the fence, so it really looks like you're entering a garden. And that little bit of a detail of just adding that moss back there, I think really helps. For the flowers, I want to use some smaller ones. These are the Tweedia. I found that, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, that's how it's spelled, but they have many different colors and styles on these. So I thought I would do some pink ones. We have some little lavender flowers. These are also the Tweedia, and see how they're like two different colors together, like purple and yellow. And I want it to be kind of random what flowers are where. And so I thought I would add a few more colors in here so I don't repeat. So that is the white Tweedia, and just kind of whatever I could find. I like the idea of them sticking out like that on top of the fence, so you're seeing the garden actually overtaking the fence. I think that's really pretty for spring. And a little hot glue there together with the moss is going to hold these in place. And since this is a standing sign, I do want to make sure everything is going to stay when I hang this on the wall. So just making sure everything is going to work like this. I think that's enough flowers for now. I'm going to go ahead and attach the little garden gate, our little welcome to our garden sign. And you have to make sure that your moss is not in the way for your Jenga block there, but I just put hot glue on the frame and on the Jenga block. So it will glue it to both of those items and line it up with the bottom of the sign we use for the garden gate. Now, if you can't find this sign for the middle for the garden gate, you could always just make a garden gate out of another one of these little pallet boards really easily, or just have the fence go straight across. Now, I thought it'd be fun to have some of the individual flowers like kind of coming through the fence like that too. I'm also going to add a little bit of this lavender. This is not the lavender from Dollar Tree. This is the lavender from Walmart, but it's pretty close to the lavender from Dollar Tree. I'm going to stick a few of those behind the gate, and then just using hot glue, some of these flowers that I had extra, I can just kind of have those coming through. I just put dots of hot glue on the stems of everything and kind of put it through the fence like it's kind of overgrowing the fence. And maybe a purple flower here, maybe a pink one right over here. So colorful and fun for spring. I really love how this turned out and the little like 3D nature of it. I think it's so pretty. You could actually stand this up if you wanted to make a base for it, or I think it looks really fun hanging on the wall. Here's a little close-up view of our little garden fence, our little flower garden. I think it's a really fun DIY for spring, and this was also a really fun DIY to put together. Isn't that so colorful and cheerful? Now for the next DIY, I picked up a metal flower from the Dollar Tree, and I thought we could use one of the little metal round signs from the Dollar Tree to make a stem for the flower. Now it does have a hanger on here. I'm just going to use pliers to take that off, and I kind of wanted to take the entire thing off so it wouldn't get in the way. So I just kind of twisted around that part on the back of the petal, trying not to cause any damage on the petal itself. I like the blue color of this one already, so I'm going to kind of go with that. I love the blue for spring. I do just want to add some fun details to it. Now for the stem, I thought about painting it green like a stem for a flower, but I thought it would be even more fun to wrap it in twine. So just starting at the top, I'm just going to wrap the entire thing with twine all the way to the base. So it doesn't really matter if you get the white sign or the black sign like this. You're not going to be able to see that part of the sign anyway. The metal circle on there is just the right size to kind of hide behind the flower and give you a way to attach it. Now I burned off the fuzzies there on the twine, but I thought I could also make some little leaves out of the twine as well. I thought that would be really cute. So I'm going to cut a piece of twine that I can kind of circle together like that to make a little leaf. So I just glue it together like that. I thought about doing this with the wired twine from Dollar Tree, but when you work with smaller pieces like this, the wire always likes to come out. And this actually kept its shape pretty well. So I just glued that on, but then I decided I wanted a little bit more detail on it. I wanted like the vein to go down the middle of the leaf. So I cut out another piece of twine and just kind of glued that straight across like that. I think that looks really cute. So I'm going to go ahead and do another little leaf here for the little flower stem. So I'm going to cut another piece down. This time I'm going to go ahead and just add the stem first. It's easier that way, adding a second piece of twine to go right down the middle. And then I can attach that. I'm just gluing these to the back of the stem. And I'm going to have this one kind of go up a little bit. I think they're really cute. I like the base on this. I thought about covering it with some moss, but I kind of like the simplicity of it just being wood. For the center of the flower, I'm also going to use the Dollar Tree twine. I just start in the middle with some hot glue, and I'm just going to start working in a spiral all the way out. It provides a great center. These metal flowers, sometimes the centers don't look great, but I think that a little detail like this can really make it look cute, and it's going to tie it in together with the stem and the leaves. I'm also going to distress it a little bit with some white, just kind of working my way out. It's kind of a soft color already, but again, I really like to distress these. I burn off any fuzzies there on the leaves and the center part of the flower with my lighter, and we can put this together. Now, I know metal does not like the hot glue, and this is metal and metal. So what I decided to do was to use some of the double-sided tape from Dollar Tree. It's pretty strong. In addition to the hot glue, to make this stronger, and I just attached this like this to cover the metal circle. That's when I noticed that you could really not see the top leaf there, so I am going to move that down a little bit so you can see that better. I can just use my heat gun here, peel it off, move it down a little bit where you can see it a little bit better, and glue that to the back. But I think that was a really easy DIY for spring. And how beautiful is this? I love it. So if you see any of these little metal flowers, they have several different varieties. This is kind of the smaller one versus some of the larger ones that I have from Dollar Tree. This is a fun idea of a way to display it. Give it a little stem, some leaves, and it stands up on its own like this. So that is really pretty as well. I'm going to make a little flower box for spring. So I'm going to use one of these welcome signs from the Dollar Tree, some craft wood, also from the Dollar Tree, and some of these great new long signs they have at the Dollar Tree. I thought I bet two were the same. They're a little bit different colors, if you notice that. I don't know if it's just, if they're different colors or, sometimes just different finishes look a little bit different. Not sure, but we're going to make it work. And they have these like in black and brown and this light wood, super cute. And I thought they'd be the perfect size for a flower box. So just removing the hanger off of both of those signs with the staples and the stickers on the back. And then I thought we could use some of this craft wood for the sides of our little flower box. So I got two pieces of those. That craft wood at the Dollar Tree, you'll notice that one side is nice and smooth and really you can paint it, stain it, whatever. The other side is all kind of furry, so you have a good side and a bad side. So I start planning how I'm going to lay that out. That's when I noticed they were a little bit different colors, but one's going to be on the front, one's going to be on the back. I don't think you're going to be able to tell they're different. But I kind of like that natural wood feel. We left the porch swing natural wood. So, I think I'm going to leave this natural wood, the sides and all. But when I put the sides on, I decided that my flower box was going to be too big for the amount of flowers that I had to craft with. So I decided to just try to maybe cut one of those in half and make a skinnier box. So we're only going to use one piece of the square craft wood. So just finding the center of that, I'm going to just run that over to my saw. I've had some of you guys ask what kind of saw I use. I actually went to, I think it was Home Depot, and bought a Ryobi miter saw, and I love it. It's one that you like pull down to cut, and then you can slide it forward if you're going to cut something larger. I use it all of the time because I hate sawing stuff. Now I'm just going to attach that with hot glue. As you can see, we got them cut in half. Just trying to keep that square like a 90-degree angle. And I'm going to do that with the other half on the other side. And I kind of like this size better because it's going to be more versatile. I can kind of fit it in more areas. But if you wanted to do the full size box, you definitely could. Now we're just going to attach the front here of our box with hot glue on both of those sides. And I don't really have anything planned to use for the bottom, but we're going to need to put something in the bottom to kind of keep the flowers in there. We're going to have floral foam and flowers. It's not going to be very heavy, but we just kind of needed something down there. So I decided actually to use one of these like flexible cutting mats from the Dollar Tree. I thought that would be easy to cut and lightweight, but it was going to kind of serve the purpose. Not quite long enough, so I'm going to cut like a strip, and then we'll have to cut another piece to fill it in all the way. I'm trying to cut it wide enough, but not too wide because I don't want it like sticking out at all from the sides. And then we can just attach that to the bottom. I love working with this stuff. You know, they make it those mats and colors as well. I use these all the time for different things. So just doing a bead of hot glue around the 3 sides that this one's going to touch. And just simply gluing that on the bottom. A very easy bottom, and it's functional. It worked. A lot easier than cutting wood down and getting everything to the right size. And so the smaller piece, we just used there on the side, just overlapping a little bit. And you'll never be able to see that from the front because it's nice and skinny and flat down there. Now for the front of our little flower box. I thought this would be perfect. It's just the right size, fits on that front sign perfectly. I don't need the hanger though, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. It's stapled onto the back. And they have the cutest like raw wood garden spring things at the Dollar Tree. I just love it. I think they have a lot of new items this year with spring. So I want that same like turquoise color that we've been using. So I mixed turquoise and white together. And we're going to paint the welcome sign that turquoise color. I think it's so cute that the L is like little garden boots. Isn't that adorable? I'm going to go ahead and paint it all. The little plant right there and the little rake are both like raised pieces that are on top. But I'm just going to go ahead and paint them all because it's kind of inevitable at that point, but then I can go back and paint those a different color. So I do use a smaller brush to get in all like the nooks and crannies that were around there to keep the paint from pooling anywhere. And then I don't want this to be super colorful. I didn't want to add pink or anything like that. So I'm just going to use ivory and a small brush and just carefully paint our little flower pot and our little rake there to the side, just to kind of give a contrast against that. And then I want to use like for the box, I'm going to bring in like that salmon pink color with my flowers. I'm going to do like a salmon pink color and like white flowers. So it's going to go with my color scheme that we've been using this year with all of these spring DIYs. And if you haven't seen them, I do have 2 previous spring DIY videos this year. I like the way that's looking, and I kind of distressed it a little bit on the letters as well because I like that look. And then I'm just using hot glue, kind of spacing it out a little bit to secure this sign to the front of the flower box. See how perfectly that fits on that sign? If you wanted just to make a sign with that, this would work perfect as well. But sometimes I like my signs to be functional like this, so it's a full-on flower box. So that's what it looks like at that point. And now we can just fill this in with flowers for spring. The box is almost exact same width as the floral foam that you get at the Dollar Tree. I like getting the long pieces and you can kind of cut them down to size. So that one fits in there perfectly, as you can see on its side. This one I did need to cut down a little bit. And it's super easy to cut. Now, the only thing I was thinking is that, it's pretty, deep. And so I don't want my foam to be way down there because I'll have to use tons of filler to fill it up. So I'm just going to toss a couple wood blocks from the Dollar Tree down below. You can use anything you've got. I just kind of needed a spacer there so I don't have to use so much filler. And I'm just going to kind of sit that in there. And I can always take those out later and reuse them for something else. Now, again, we're going to use the reindeer moss from the Dollar Tree. I really love this for spring. I think it looks so springy and mossy. And we're just going to cover all of the floral foam. If you're going to do this like for something outside, you might want to glue that down, but I'm kind of doing an indoor decoration. So I think it's going to sit in there nicely, and it made it look really full. Now, these are the flowers that I picked out from the Dollar Tree to decorate it with. The white ones are the lilacs, and they're so pretty. I chose 2 different kinds of flowers. Um, they'll kind of coordinate together. And then it's a little bit too tall since I put like that spacer underneath there. So I am just going to bend it and put one in the side, one in the middle, and one on the end. I always like to work with odd numbers. I think it looks better when you're doing any kind of arrangement like this. And then the 2 spots in between will fill in with these beautiful, like salmon color flowers. They're so pretty. And kind of get them all about the same height. Now, I was missing one flower from one, so I decided to remove one flower from the second one just to make sure they're even, and bending that and pushing that into the floral foam. And that's all there is to it. We have a little spring flower box, and I think it just turned out so pretty. What do you think about this one? I love that little welcome sign. I think it's so fun. And you could even add some more detail to those little, like the little plant and stuff like that if you like. The next DIY is super easy. I really like this idea and I like the simplicity of it, but we're going to start with one of these vases from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted it to be like a blue vase for spring, but I kind of wanted that glossy exterior on the outside, so we're going to try painting it on the inside. Now I'm going to mix together turquoise and white to get that same light turquoise color that we've been using, but I'm also going to mix in water to make it thinner because I want to be able to spread it around. And I've painted stuff like glasses and stuff like that from the inside as well, but I've never done anything this big. Like this vase is pretty big. So I thought I mixed up enough paint. I was a little shy, but we're going to make it work. So I'm just kind of scooping all of that paint into the bottom of the vase, and then just swirling it around the inside. I got to like that spot and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to have enough paint. And it was kind of a custom shade that I had mixed up together. So I was like, okay, let's see what I can scoop out from here. And that's what I do. Try to get as much paint in there as I can. And you want to put something underneath of it for the paint to come out on. As you can see, I got pretty good, all like but one little section here. So I'm just using a paintbrush and trying to go in and give a pretty even coat to the missing section. Now, this is the part that requires a little patience because then you've got to let it dry. I want it to be that solid turquoise color, so I'm going to sit it aside on some paper towels to let it dry. And I actually just went on and did another project and came back to it so that it would be good and dry and we could work with it. So I just set it on paper towels like that, kind of let it drip out. I'm going to clean up any paint that came on the outside of it. And this worked pretty well. I really love that color. I think it's so pretty. What I want to do is to do a floral arrangement with this with butterflies. I thought that would be so pretty for spring. So I'm just making sure it's completely dry by using a little heat in there too, because you don't want to mess it up at this point. Now these are the flowers we're going to use, the baby breath from the Dollar Tree. It's a real tiny white baby breath, and we're going to use all of these because this is a pretty big vase and I want it to be rather full. I find that baby breath kind of like sticks together, as you can see there. So I'm just kind of separating it out. Prepare for a little bit of a mess with this stuff because it does like kind of fall off, that like flocking that's on there when you're working with it. And I thought I had 3 of these, but I actually had 4, but I'm going to go ahead and use all 4 because it's going to make it really nice and full. I want to put the little butterflies on there. And as you can see, I have some onion grass there with some pink butterflies, and I thought that would be perfect. Make it look like they are landing on the baby's breath. So this is what we've got so far. our beautiful vase that we DIY'd, full of white baby's breath. And I really like the simplicity and colors on this because we're just going to use that turquoise, the white, and the pink. So this little plant has 4 little butterflies on there. They're so cute. And they're on like little flower stems. I'll just save the onion grass, I'm sure, for a Easter project. I use that a lot for Easter. So I'm just going to put some glue on the end of like the flower and kind of just glue that down into place on the baby's breath. Like little butterflies have landed on it. So pretty. And I was trying to find butterflies to use. They have like butterfly stickers and different things like that. But most of the things I could find at the Dollar Tree didn't have like colored bottoms. They were all kind of plain. And I thought they would look kind of fake in this kind of application. But these worked out perfectly. And they have these in all different colors too. And that's all there is to it. This spring DIY was so easy. It just took a little time for the paint to dry inside the vase. But this is how it turned out. Our little baby breath vase with butterflies. It's so cute. I'm going to have to try that paint method again for the inside of glass. It was easier than I thought it would be. Okay, look at this little spring gnome they had in the garden section. They also had these little like fence post signs, which are super cute. I totally bought it for the fence post though, not for like the existing design. I'm going to keep this little galvanized metal flower pot though, and the little flowers. They were so easy to pop off. And then it left me with like a little fence sign. I think it's going to be perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and leave the hanger on the back and just repaint the sign to cover up the flowers that were on there to kind of give me a plain base, because I want my little garden gnome to be standing in front of this like white picket fence. Nothing screams like a yard like a white picket fence. So I am just going over with white. I do a coat over the flowers first to kind of give a primer so that won't shine through. And then I go over all of it with just white acrylic. Don't worry about like covering up the lines when you're painting this, because you can always kind of add those back on. I thought about cutting it down to kind of make some grooves in there, but I decided to just go with a Sharpie. It kind of worked. I was using like a goldish brown color and my ruler and trying to draw those back on. The sign was a little bit taller, but we're going to make it work. And so it's okay if it looks a little distressed. Just going to make it look a little bit more like wood. Now, it was a little too white and pristine for my style, so I'm going to go over with some Antique Wax by Waverly and a chunky brush, and just working in one direction, distressing, making sure I get the tops and the bottom of each one, and distressing lightly all over. Then I'm going to go back with a baby wipe and wipe off the excess, kind of rubbing that in, kind of giving it a weathered, worn looking fence. Totally goes more with my like coastal farmhouse vibe in my house. But you can leave yours pristine white if you'd like. And now it's time to decorate this cute little garden gnome holding a flower. I'm going to just remove the hanger at the top, and we're going to paint everything under the burlap with white. Acrylic just to give us a nice base coat, and we can add some colors to that. I like that they added the burlap to the hat, but I almost don't like it because I had to paint around it and try to make sure that I don't get any paint on the burlap. I may have wanted to just add that myself. Not really sure why they chose to do that, but I'm not going to worry about the hat right now. I've got a plan for that. So everything just under the hat is what we're painting. So I decided that that salmon color would be really cute for a little pink nose for our gnome. So just using a small brush, I go over that. And these are the raised wood pieces on there, so it's kind of easy to paint that. And then I take a tiny brush and I'm just going to kind of do like his clothes in that color as well. As you can see, he doesn't have like a lot of clothes, but he does have a little bit of clothes underneath of his beard here, and I kind of wanted those to be a contrasting color. Now for his little mittens and boots, I thought we would do that light turquoise color. So mixing turquoise and white together again. I'm just going to simply go over all of those, kind of leaving the white border around. As you can see, there's like a little line, just kind of trying to paint within the lines. And then I decided to clean it up a little bit with a Sharpie, just to kind of go over my lines. I did have a similar color, but this step's totally optional. Now it's time for the little gnome hat. I have this fabric left over from another spring DIY. I got this at Dollar Tree, and I love that this is going to coordinate with my little watering can DIY that I made with this. So I just draw out on the back of it how big the little gnome hat is, and then use that little Sharpie line to cut out my fabric. I love this fabric. I think it's so pretty for spring, and the colors are perfect for my color scheme. So we have a little gnome hat. I'm not going to worry about the little hole that was on there for the hanger. You'll never be able to see it. Now for the top part of the hat, it's a little bit more complex. I just laid it over that burlap part and kind of felt with my finger and used an ink pen to kind of draw that on, so I didn't know exactly where to cut that. And that actually worked out pretty well because that's kind of a weird cut that I had to do there. Isn't that cute? I love this little gnome. And you'll see that I left the flower white. I do have plans for that. That was kind of my inspiration for a flower there. But since I'm using like fabric, I'm going to do like a thick layer of matte Mod Podge from the Dollar Tree. And just simply lay that fabric on top, trying to get it lined up the best that I can so that like no wood is exposed. And it did pretty good without doing any fraying or anything like that along the sides. But if you have a little bit, I think it's going to be fine. And just trying to smooth that out, making sure it goes all the way up to like the burlap part of the sign. I think he's looking really cute. And so this is what I had planned. I have used this flower in another DIY, and I think it's so pretty. And so I'm going to use one for this. The color is perfect. I want to trim this down a little bit, but not so much that it makes the flower fall apart. And then I'm just going to put it on top of the white flower that he already has there. If you wanted, you could drill a hole into that and kind of put the flower down into it. I really wasn't wanting to drill a hole in him, so I just kind of glue it on there. And then I don't really want like the white flower to be exposed, so I kind of like glue the petals down, and it kind of covers it up. This is kind of like the perfect size for this gnome to be holding. And then I do the same thing at the top there, just kind of gluing it all down and arranging it like that. Now we can attach our little garden gnome to our fence. I kind of want it to look like he's standing like in a yard. And so I'm going to kind of put him up a little bit from the bottom and then use some reindeer moss for like our garden ground that's going to be like in front of the fence. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and take the tag off the back and glue him down. I used like the moss at the bottom for grass like that in some of my spring DIYs last year. I think it turned out really cute. And I remember doing that, so I thought I would want to do that with this one as well. And I decided not to really add any like bows or words to that, but you totally could if you wanted to. You could spell out spring or bloom or something like that along the sides. That'd be really cute. And then just using hot glue, I am just gluing down the reindeer moss, trying to keep kind of just one row of it to kind of make it look like grass. And if you get too much or if it's like hanging over the bottom, don't worry, you can always trim that up later once you get it all glued down. Just trying to glue in any bald places here with that. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to trim up the bottom, just clean it up a little bit. And we have our little garden gnome. You guys know I love my gnome, so I was really happy to be able to do a couple of gnome projects today because we had the gnome in the fairy garden as well. And this is how it turned out. My little spring gnome. I absolutely love that fabric and the little burlap detail on there as well. It is so cute. And I love like the pink and the blue together. Really a fun little DIY to bring a little spring into your home this year. I really hope you got tons of spring crafting inspiration today. I had so much fun putting this video together. Please let me know which one was your favorite down in the comments below. I love reading all of your comments. You can check out my second channel at Crafty Little Beach. You can find me at Crafty Beach on YouTube on all social media. And enjoy the final reveal.
When lights go out, you're in my mind. I close my eyes, so it's just you and I tell myself you'll be back again. When the stars are aligned, we will dance in the meadow on our favorite place. When spring is coming, where are you now? I hope you're fine, but I won't lie, I still miss you so much. But I don't hold grudge. You had to go. I will save you a space for a dance in the meadow on our favorite place. When spring is coming. You're like a flower, you've always loved them. When winter comes, you go. Why is it so?
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's video. That helps my channel so much. And I'd like to thank all of my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you to Karen O'Haron, Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Susan Edmonds, Tracy Knight, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Live Another Day, Maren Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Red Mama, Donna Tanner, and our newest member, Kim Rogers. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. If you would like to become a Crafty Beach Bum member, all you have to do is hit the join button next to today's video. You're going to get early ad-free access to my content here on YouTube, a badge next to your name when you comment, and a shout out in every video. It's $4.99 a month. You're free to cancel at any time. And I would love to see what you've been crafting. Be sure to join our private Facebook group. It's linked in the description of today's video to share your DIYs as well. Would you like more spring Dollar Tree DIYs? Be sure to check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting and thanks for watching.